Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. As I always say, everything that I produce, given that it's about psychology, might contain triggering material, so watch with care. Let's watch.
Tolerate nahui crap like that, nahui. You been doing this too much time already.
All right, y'all are both wrong to fight in front of your family like that. We can start off with that. I feel like before Charlie walked in the house, y'all both wanted to fight with each other, so y'all just got it done pretty quick.
I mean, yeah, that looked like that was like 30 seconds. It looks like you guys had that coming.
Jovi and Mike. Me and Jovi and Mike agreeing with each other. Yeah, absolutely. It looked like they both had decided, and we don't need to imagine what was going on in their minds. They both said that it's escalating and that if the other person says anything, they're going to get in a fight. They'd been talking about this for a long time. They had threatened each other for a long time. So completely consistent situation, and they're both to blame for that. And as I said in the video the first time, you know, put them out in the back and let them duke it out. Make sure they don't kill each other. Just, and then you can enjoy the barbecue. I don't know.
Too much. I feel really sorry for you.
Okay, besides the $100,000 and everyone asking to borrow money and stuff, like, what is your pet peeve with him? And what is your real pet peeve besides the money and all that?
He's toxic, like, and I'm not talking to him. Because you're doing what you're doing. You know what you're doing. You're getting up every day, like, and you're not doing.
All right. Sometimes I wish that they would just allow the words, because we have no idea what Andrei just said. I think what Andrei said was, you're always effed up on alcohol and you're doing drugs all the time. So this lends itself to that theory that a lot of people are having. It sounds like Andrei is confirming that. And I don't think that Andrei would say that if there wasn't reason to be saying that. So interesting. Now, why do people have problems with drugs and alcohol? Usually because of emotional trauma. That when you have emotional trauma and you find substances, as most people will eventually, then we will feel, wow, I feel normal. I feel okay. I feel numb. I don't feel the emotional pain anymore. I like this feeling. Let's keep doing it.
Like, you didn't even see me, bro. Like, what are you talking about?
You're just like all the time, Rico, alcohol. What the are you talking about?
Okay.
Okay? So what's the problem? That's the problem.
Chuck, do you?
Now, I will say that's not an excuse to fight someone. If someone suffers from drinking alcohol frequently and chronically and hiding it and having a substance abuse problem, that doesn't justify putting him on the ground. You know, if it doesn't justify yelling at him. If he has a problem, then, you know, he has a problem. And I wonder if the family, this is interesting, I wonder if the family over the course of the season switched their scapegoating from Andrei to Charlie. It's interesting to think about because Charlie does seem to be the scapegoat now.
You think Charlie's drinking has affected the family?
I think the few times that we had, like, those few events, you know, there could have been drinking involved.
I think Charlie said as much when they were in Moldova and there was almost the fight. I think Charlie and Andrei both said, well, that was the alcohol. But, you know, I still, you know, they did, I think, identify that as a factor.
And y'all aren't drinking,
could have been.
Y'all aren't drinking?
There was.
I'm not
drinking.
family gatherings,
Exactly.
there's alcohol, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like,
Alcohol has definitely played a role in all of this, for sure, because people abuse it.
Do you think Charlie abused?
So it sounds like the family is trying to save face for Charlie on some way. It sounds like that was a coded message from Jen saying that Charlie does have a problem and does abuse alcohol. And they all do think that if Charlie was sober, he would act differently, which is absolutely, I haven't said this yet because I just don't know, but yes, it is absolutely a thing that when people drink and use substances chronically, that their moods can become erratic, their thinking can become problematic, their behavior can become different and difficult, and violence can absolutely be a part of that. If any of you have had a family member who was drinking and abusive, you know all about that.
Is this alcohol?
I don't think he has a good relationship with alcohol.
they tried to cancel me out the family.
I try to cancel you?
All y'all, bro. All y'all.
Don't call me bro. I'm not your...
Yeah, I agree with Jen on that. Don't call me bro. Stop calling me bro. Yeah. Which I will say that repetitive use of that word, I don't know, says something about sophistication level. But anyway, so he says he's being canceled. That's another word for being scapegoated, I think. Now, why would a family scapegoat? Well, who knows? But often it's because there's a problem in the family and everyone is worried that they're not going to get their needs met. They're worried about being rejected. It's easier to describe this when you think about like middle school cliques or something. So you have a new school and there's all these different kids coming from different areas around town. They're going to the middle school and they don't really know each other. Everyone's trying to fit in. And you find yourself in the beginning of a early formation of a clique of 5 kids. And there's a lot of tension. Everyone's concerned about rejection. Everyone's desperate for acceptance and trying not to come across like they're desperate. And all that tension, it leads up to undifferentiation and worry. And one of the social mechanisms available, which gets used all the time in families or in cliques or in societies or even on political nation level, is that you will scapegoat one person. And usually someone will look like a good target for a scapegoating. And the group, the 5 kids, will scapegoat one of the kids and say, oh, let's ditch her, or, he's dumb or she's ugly or whatever it is. And the 4 others, so you have, now you have 4, and they will bond in their scapegoating of the one. And this helps them to feel more secure because they have a common enemy. They agree about something. They also know that if that person is being ostracized, then I know I'm not being ostracized. And so it serves a purpose for people who lack security between groups. Now, in the olden times, 100,000 years ago, we didn't need to do this as much because we were born into a society of 50 to 100 people, and we were rarely around strangers. But given how often in our current society we're around strangers, we resort to these tactics more than is helpful to us. So in a family, when there is low differentiation, a lot of worry about lack of acceptance, and a lot of worry about lack of receiving the resources of love and money from the parents, and they've described this as much. Jen has said, Andrei's taking away our gerbs and our money and all that kind of stuff. And you will try to scapegoat someone, because if you're scapegoating and everyone is against that person, then you feel like you're getting acceptance and you're not being the one rejected. So all that anxiety, Andrei comes along and he's an excellent candidate. One, because he makes himself into an easy target, and he's an outsider, and he's a foreigner. And the family, I think, has something against foreigners. They clearly do. When they were going to his country, they were making fun of his culture. It was just, anyway. So they looked at him as an easy scapegoat, and then that helps them potentially, I don't know, I'd have to ask them if this holds true, to gain some security and acceptance and more optimism about the future, about resource retrieval from them. As Andrei starts to be accepted by Chuck, then Andrei isn't a very good scapegoat anymore, even though they're kind of locked in on that. So they really start to force the issue with Andrei, that he is a bad person, that he is manipulative, and they start to distort and start to make stories that feel good to them, because they're like, well, if we don't have a scapegoat, then we're lost. So we need Andrei to be a scapegoat, so we're going to make him a scapegoat. We're going to trigger him as best we can, which didn't really work that well. But then Charlie starts to have, then Charlie comes along and says, yeah, we're really going to let him have it, but Charlie goes too far. And at some point, Charlie goes really far, and now his scapegoat potential rises above Andrei's scapegoat potential, and now Charlie is the scapegoat. Charlie is the problem. Charlie is the one that we will reject and call toxic and has a problem. Now, Charlie doesn't help the situation by making himself an easy target.
I'm done with toxic stuff.
I have a problem with you calling your brother toxic, okay?
Does Charlie not try to fight with everybody in the family all the time?
Who? Who did I fight with?
With everybody you're fighting. Your sister, of kids, or everything that's around you, you're aggressive to everybody.
As always, Andrei, just be quiet. It doesn't involve you. You have a brother and a sister and a father having a conversation. When you insert yourself, you become the scapegoat. They will turn on you. Let them work it out. You're not helping yourself.
Just drop all of your kids away before they go make their own business. Go to Bahamas, buy a yacht, and enjoy time with the weekend beaches there.
All right, Chuck, I want to know, have you worked with Charlie recently?
No. Why? Since all this went down,
Because you trust
our
your father,
relationship's
you're trusting your
strained,
father and your
He hasn't talked to Charlie in 3 months. He hasn't worked with Charlie, I'm guessing, in 3 months. And he has temporarily cut him out of the business, which we all understand is a huge deal to Charlie and to Chuck. Chuck bonds with his children through working with them and helping them, with their finances. And so I believe them that they haven't talked in 3 months. They haven't worked together. And so now Chuck is being asked, why? And so Chuck is now giving some answers. You're effing up at night. So is that him saying, look, you're using substances a lot and you're inconsistent, you're irresponsible? Let's see what he says.
up at night. That's why.
Whatever. I got my own business.
Charlie, how could you and Andrei mend your relationship?
I don't know. Go flip houses in Moldova.
For the sake of the family,
Good question by Sean. I wish that it was pursued longer, but that's an excellent question. Okay, Charlie, what would it take for you and Andrei to get along? And Charlie gave, I think, a pretty honest answer, which is go back home to your family, to your country, get out of America.
Elizabeth, do you think anybody should apologize?
I mean, if I could have it my way in a perfect world, I would want them to make amends and just find a common ground and get along. But I'm not going to sit here and explain to each one of them why I feel that they should apologize. I'm not their mother. They're adults. They need to figure it out.
Very differentiated from Libby. And she, throughout this season, actually has exhibited a lot of differentiation, if I remember right. And so I often talk about differentiation, which is a complicated topic that I get barely into on these reaction videos. If you want to listen to my full deep dive on Bowenian therapy and theory, become a patron of the podcast so you can listen to that. And differentiation is a part of a much larger theory that Murray Bowen proposed a long time ago that a lot of therapists adhere to. Anyway, so she is faced with a situation where she's watching her husband fight with her brother. And I think she, as we all do, blame both of them for that. She wishes that they would just get along. She understands probably both sides. She understands Andrei's side because Charlie is Charlie. But she probably kind of understands Charlie's side because Andrei is Andrei. So she understands both sides, but she also and blames both sides, but she wishes they would just get along because it would make her life a lot better, and she thinks it would probably help everyone's life if they just stopped this childishness. And it truly is adolescent childishness. It really is. And so she wants that, and there's a lot of tension in the air. There's a lot of conflict and a lot of worry of that she would have to take sides or something. We could see a lot of people. We could see her taking sides. We could see her withdrawing. We could see her yelling at people. We could see her, who knows, walking out of the room and flashing body parts as other people do. But she doesn't do any of that. What she sifts through her thoughts and she's like, well, there's really nothing. I've tried everything that I can from my standpoint, and that's the other part of differentiation is like, I'm not them. And that's what she's saying. She's like, look, they're them. And if they want to do that, I wish they wouldn't. And I could tell them all the reasons. They're not going to hear it because I've already done it. And so they're having their problem. It affects me because I'm close to them, but it's not my problem. And I've done everything I can to change it, but there's nothing more I can do. And so if that's the life they want to, have, and I guess I'll just live with it, but it's not my problem. It's their problem. That's differentiation, the ability to go, I don't agree with it. It's their issue. It affects me kind of, but I can kind of distance myself because that's differentiation, the ability to have flexibility, the ability to meld with people, the ability to withdraw, the ability to be friends, the ability to draw a boundary, to be flexible, the ability to do both given the situation so that you can meet your own needs, which I think she just did beautifully.
I feel like me and my sisters always got along. We always joked around, had good times until Andrei came along. I feel like my dad, you see him crying and stuff like that, bro, if that really hurts you, bro, why aren't you trying to resolve these issues?
Wow. So he saw his father sobbing, not just crying, at day of, and in the flashback scenes that they would watch. Flashback scenes? The recaps. And the son, Charlie, says, bro, if you're going to cry like that, then why aren't you fixing the problem? So why would he say that? Well, one is he's too used to saying bro, and he's in a habit of saying it, which I don't recommend for anybody. But I'm guessing that would be my hypothesis if I were to investigate. And I mean investigate because as a therapist, not every therapist is like this, but for me and many therapists like me, in order for us to help a situation, we have to identify the problem. We have to have a conceptualization of the issue so that we can help to resolve that, to help to soothe it, to heal it, or to somehow help the family. But anyway, so if I were to investigate, I would start a line of questioning to prove or disprove the hypothesis that the issue in the family that I've been saying is that the kids feel like they feel ripped off throughout their entire life and feel rejected and feel the need to scapegoat other people. And then, let me just start over. So if you as a kid feel like your parents aren't giving you enough love and attention, you might fight amongst yourselves, you might scapegoat a lot, you might use substances. And then when you see your parent crying as a result partially of your behavior, you're going to be like, well, I'm not going to feel bad for you because you've never felt bad for me. That's just an hypothesis. I don't know if that's what's happening.
He's like, for your waiting in Moldova, I like, what the you say this?
Charlie is aggressive now. You want to punch his face now. His face is punchable.
I feel like he's much more sensitive than he lets on.
Yeah, it's this like fake persona he puts on.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm so tough. It's like,
The
no.
amount of times he said, bruh, I feel like he's trying to hide that he's actually heard about something.
Yeah, I agree with Tiffany, absolutely. I think he exhibited some of that hurt, Charlie, actually, when he said, yeah, why haven't you talked to me, Dad, in 3 months? Why am I cut out of the business? Okay, I guess I'm canceled now. And he is transforming the hurt and the pain into this, bravado, into the bro word, and into potentially substance use.
Charlie's a completely different person when he drinks, and unfortunately, that is the majority of the time.
Is an issue that needs to be addressed. His behavior is toxic. He's just a weak person. So like we cut Charlie off, it's getting better. As I'm gonna cut the sisters off a little bit, it's gonna get even better.
So I wouldn't say he's weak. And I would also wonder about, so they're saying he is a completely different person when he drinks, which is absolutely possible. Many people are like that. I would suspect, though, that there's something else going on besides just the drinking. That's usually the case. When people have problems with substance abuse, particularly when they have behavioral problems as a result of substance use, then it's usually because of relational traumas or self-esteem issues. Because, a lot of people drink, and not everyone has the kind of behavior that would cause people to be like, whoa, that person has a big problem with drinking and their behavior. So it's not always the case, but that would be one thing I would wonder about for Charlie. Actually, watching this episode, I and as Tiffany did, really sense Charlie's vulnerability and his pain.
Like it's just all about us, and we just have to concentrate to be successful and get money. That's it.
And the other thing I'll say is when sometimes you have someone close to you who suffers from substance abuse and has a lot of toxicity around them, then sometimes you have to detach and cut yourself off from them because there's nothing you can do. That the individual is powerless over their emotional problems and their substance use problems. They're not seeking help for it yet. And the closer you are to that person, the more you're going to be harmed by their use and their chaos. So maybe that's what the family is doing. Now, I hope that Charlie can get therapy. I hope that he can get the help that he needs. He deserves that. I'm guessing he would be a much happier person because of that. So maybe he will. All right, well, that does it for that episode. If you didn't know already, we have a Discord and a subreddit and a Facebook and an Instagram and other things. So you can join the conversation there. Instagram, I share a lot of pictures of my dogs and cats and other kinds of things, my family. That's usually what I use my Instagram for, is behind the scenes kind of stuff, I guess, to my life. If you're interested, and if you're not, I would totally understand. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.